Violet, I love you. Will you marry me?
Tom and Violet are engaged to be married.
Oh my God!
When Violet is offered a job in Michigan, Tom decides to follow her, and they postpone their wedding.
Have you two picked a date yet?
Not yet, but within the year.
But their careers go in opposite directions, jeopardizing their nuptials in the 5-year engagement.
5-year engagement. We've all just seen it.
The opening 5 minutes of this movie I liked. It was charming. It introduced the Emily Blunt character, the Jason Segel character. He proposes to her, and you think, oh, this is going to be a really sweet movie. And then the writing is all playing to punchlines. Every scene is really set up for a joke, and those jokes don't do anything to advance our characters. They don't do anything to advance our plot. This was produced by Judd Apatow, who, of course, directed a lot of good comedies like 40-Year-Old Virgin and Knocked Up, and also produced Bridesmaids, which on the poster for this movie, they're saying from the producers of Bridesmaids. And with Bridesmaids, it understood its premise, which is if you're going to have these people involved in this wedding, it's going to be a series of obstacles that are going to prevent something from happening. Things are going to get in the way. So you think if it's a movie called The 5-Year Engagement, it's going to be a series of comic foibles and obstacles that are going to prevent these two people from getting married. And that's not what it is. It's just basically the fact that it takes them 5 years to get married.
We start off with a quirky, jovial, fun movie, and it dips into really depressing, morose plot elements at the end of that second act, and it really drags. Like our showrunner, David Friedman, talks about the thud of the second act, and that's really what happened here.
The conflict in this movie didn't really make sense because it could have easily been solved and there would be essentially no movie. I mean, Jason Segel's character, he follows Emily Blunt to Michigan, where she is at the University of Michigan, which is a very lively, very cultured city. And so he could have started his own restaurant. He would have no complaints, essentially. So there was no reason for him to be as depressed and for the movie to drag on the way it did.
That snow looks nice.
Yeah, looks fine.
Do you want to roll around with me in it and get weird?
You mean like...
Yeah! No one's around. Let's get into Michigan life.
There is one issue.
What?
It's very cold out.
So what?
It's gonna look super small for a second.
I've seen it every single way.
Not this small.
I thought there was a lack of tension all throughout the movie. I mean, in the first half of the picture, both of these characters, the Emily Blunt character and the Jason Segel character, are basically flawless. They have nothing to really butt heads about. Jason Segel's a little upset about having to go to Michigan, but he accepts it because this is his fiancée, of course. And then in the second half of the movie, you're right, it goes into this morose, dramatic territory, and I don't think it earns it. There's nothing that really plants the seeds that that should be what happens in this movie. And so I didn't really feel that there was a decent story here to propel us from the beginning to the end.
If someone didn't know that this movie was produced from Universal Studios, which is partnered with NBC, now you know after watching this movie.
Yeah, we have Alison Brie from Community. We have Chris Parnell from 30 Rock. We have Chris Pratt from Parks and Rec. We have Mindy Kaling from The Office. We have a slew of Thursday night sitcom lineup actors.
There's a lot of chemistry between Alison Brie and Emily Blunt, who are playing sisters. There was this really awesome scene at the very end of the movie where they are having an argument and Alison Brie's character's daughter is in the room and she asks them, one of them to speak in Elmo voice and the other one to speak in a Cookie Monster voice. So while they're having this very passionate discussion, they have to use these really silly voices, but the scene had so much energy and so much life and it was really unique that to me saved the third act.
But that's one of the one scenes that I can't do Cookie Monster.
There's a term in the industry that we also learned in film school called killing your babies, which is essentially if there's something that you really liked but doesn't fit in the final product, you have to get rid of it. And director Nick Stoller, it's obvious that he had a hard time doing that because they left in scenes that just dragged on that didn't need to be there.
And this movie's 124 minutes in length. They could have easily cut out 20 minutes. It goes on far too long. And this is a major disappointment because this is the team, Jason Segel and Nicholas Stoller, that brought us Forgetting Sarah Marshall, and Nicholas Stoller also directed Get Him to the Greek, and they both wrote The Muppets from last year. And so for them to basically produce something that just feels tired and cliched and worn out, I expected more.
And there were so many jokes and scenes in this movie that were so obviously recycled from other movies, like they didn't add a new twist to it, that it was just too obvious about what they were doing.
Well, I think it's time to end our current engagement and just take this movie to a vote. Let's take our tickets.
Trust us, this is not the light, fun fare that you expect it to be. Skip it.
I like the first 5 minutes of this movie, I like the last 10, and I like the soundtrack. So mathematically, that still means that the 5-year engagement deserves a skip it.
Although this movie felt like a long engagement, there were some charismatic performances and a few standout moments. Stream it.
Looks like our votes add up to a half ticket, which is a skip it for the 5-year engagement.
Elmo says skip it!